الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book أخسر المختصرات in كتاب المعاملات, the chapter of المعاملات, and we're still in the chapter of الربا. And before we continue, we talked about ربا الفضل, and then we stopped at where he says وربا النسيئة. Just as mentioned in the last time, so inshallah ta'ala we'll try to explain it so that we have it easy inshallah ta'ala for us to remember it. We said that الربا نوعان, ربا فضل وربا نسيئة. The riba of al-fadl, and fadl means what's fadl? Extra or increase, right? And nasi'a, deferred. So this is the two types of riba. But when we say riba, الربا is specifically in something they call al-amwal al-ribawiyya. Only in specific items the riba applies on it, not in every item. So al-amwal al-ribawiyya that is mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ can be categorized into two or three as it's going to be mentioned. But the two things mentioned here, which is they call it al-illa al-ribawiyya, or the reason why it's riba. If it applies one of these two categories, which is al-wazn wal-kayl. Al-wazn wal-kayl. Al-wazn means something that is measured by weight, and al-kayl something that is measured by volume. So anything basically or specifically the time of the Prophet ﷺ that was measured with weight or with volume, and the weight is the weight or the measure of al-mikyal of al-Medina, and the wazn is the wazn of the people of Mecca, and anything else that later on people would weight or measure by volume, then according to the norm, if it wasn't known at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So basically the two reasons here is the wazn or al-kayl, anything that is measured by weight, or anything that is measured by volume. So the riba applies there. So if we talk about these two illas, weight and volume, if this is where, just very simply, inshallah ta'ala, when it comes to these are the two illas, or these are the two reasons for the riba. We have, when it comes to riba, which is the increase, there is something called at-tamathul. They have to be equal quantities. It's not permissible to increase, otherwise it becomes riba. And it has to be at-taqabud. That means it has to be given, exchanged immediately, so there's no deferring or any payment that is deferred. So this is fadl and nasi'ah. So in these two types of categories, there are certain situations where you cannot increase, and also you cannot have it deferred, or both. How to figure that out? Very easy, inshallah ta'ala. So if the two categories, if it's you're exchanging two things from the same category, so we have something that is weight, something that is exchanged, that is measured with weight, versus something else that is measured with weight. If it's the same kind, there has to be at-taqabud, and at-tamathul has to be there. It has to be equal quantity, it has to be hand to hand, if it's from the same kind. If it's from different kinds but from the same category, what happens? You can increase in the quantity, but it has to be hand to hand, right? So again, I wish we have a board that it becomes easy if we have these two things together. So this is if it's from the same kind, and that's why at-tamr bit-tamr. At-tamr is weighed or measured with volume, according to the hadith, by volume. Now it's with weight, which is fine, but it's either way. So say, for example, now we consider it as weight. So can you exchange date with date? The answer is you can. But how would the riba, how to avoid riba if you exchange date with date? Doesn't matter what type of date, as long as it's dates. So it has to be equal in quantity and hand to hand. Why? Because it's from the same kind and the same category. So tamr and tamr, dates and dates, they're both measured with weight, and according to nowadays, and they're both from the same category which is from the same kind, which is tamr. Clear? So both has to be applied. The quantity, you cannot increase the quantity, and it has to be immediate. You cannot defer it. Right? If it's from the same category, but different kinds. So something that is measured by weight, like dates. Something measured by weight, like hadid, for example, iron. It's measured by weight. So can you exchange dates with iron? The answer is yes. We have two things, variables. The fadl, which is the same quantities or more, versus, and also the hand to hand. So can they be of different quantities? Yes. So it doesn't have to be 1 kilogram of dates exchanged with 1 kilograms of iron. They can change in the quantity, but they have to be hand to hand. Has to be without deferring the exchange. Why did we say that? Because they are common in one illah, in one category, which is they're both measured by weight. So they're together categorized in one category, which is the weight, but they're of different kinds. And since there are different kinds, so the quantity doesn't have to be the same. But they have to be hand to hand because they are both measured with the same unit or the same weight. Is it clear? If it's in a board, you can see clearly how it works. When it comes to, so this is, you have something measured by weight, two things measured by weight, or two things measured by volume. If there are two different kinds, it's okay to increase the quantity, which is an obvious thing. But then you cannot have it deferred. What if they are from two different categories completely? So you have something measured by weight and something measured by volume. Can you exchange them? Yes. Can you increase the quantity? Can they be different quantities? Yes. This is measured by weight, this is measured by volume. Can they be deferred? Yes. Why? Because they're not common in anything. They're not common in the illah. The illah, the reason why it's riba, which is one is weight and one is volume. They're not together in this, and there are different kinds and different categories. Clear? So therefore, no tamathul, that means they can be different quantities and they don't have to be immediate, they can be deferred. And this is where the general ruling of it. And a naqd or a thaman or something that is used for money, which is gold and silver and money. That also something to be included here, mentioned as of different type also, as it's going to be mentioned inshallah. So when we read it again, so he says الربا نوعان ربا فضل وربا نسيئة. We took ربا الفضل last time. He says فربا الفضل يحرم. So when he says ربا الفضل, the increase by the increase of the quantity, يحرم. حرام in what? في كل مكيل وموزون بيع بجنسه متفاضلا. يحرم, it's haram in every makil. Makil is anything that is being measured with volume. This is the makil. The volume is by al-kayl. Al-kayl is the volume. Al-mikyal is the instrument that measures by volume. So يحرم في كل مكيل. Al-makil here refers to the commodity itself or the thing itself. That means it's haram in anything that is being measured with volume, وموزون in anything that is measured with weight. بيع بجنسه. بيع, that means it's sold. بجنسه. بجنسه, that means sold by in return of what? جنسه, the same kind. Because again, you don't have to buy and sell with cash as one side and the other side is the commodity that you're purchasing. You can purchase something with other than the cash, other than money. So if it's يحرم في كل مكيل, any مكيل and موزون بيع بجنسه, if it's sold by its same jins, which is the same kind, متفاضلا, with increase in quality, that means quantity, that means it's haram. So the only way that it becomes halal, if it's makil and it's from the same makil by makil, and it's from the same jins, from the same kind, it has to be equal in quantity and it cannot be different. Clear? So this is, we want to make sure that the matn, every word, we understand what it means in the Arabic language. يحرم, haram, في كل مكيل وموزون بيع, that it's sold, بجنسه, by its jins. And the he refers to it, بجنسه, by its jins, by its kind, متفاضلا. This is فضل. متفاضلا, that means with increase. ولو يسيرا لا يتأتى. I'm repeating ربا الفضل again here. ولو يسيرا, even if it's very small amount, لا يتأتى, that means you cannot even weigh it, or you cannot measure it with volume, because it's one piece of date, one this and that. So even in that, you cannot exchange it with increase. It has to be exactly the same. ويصح به متساويا وبغيره مطلقا. يصح, that means it's valid, it's permissible. به متساويا, that means with the same, that means the same kind. متساويا, that has to be equal. وبغيره مطلقا. So if it's makil by makil, it's valid if it's equal. وبغيره, that means makil by mawzun. Makil measures with volume versus something measured with weight. If they are exchanged, this is mutlaqan. This is mutlaqan, that means without any condition. بشرط قبض قبل تفرق. With the condition that it's to be given or the exchanged before they depart. This is from the same jins. I'm sorry, from the same kind. Makil with makil, even if the jins is different, even if the kind is different. Then this is what is meant here. So mutlaqan بشرط قبض قبل تفرق, with the condition that it's not deferred. They have to exchange it before they depart. لا مكيل بجنسه وزنا ولا عكسه. لا مكيل بجنسه. No makil with its jins. وزنا, you cannot exchange something makil with the same kind with wazn. You measure some dates in volume versus some dates in weight. You change the unit of measuring here. You cannot do that, right? So if you're exchanging dates with dates, the unit of measure has to be the same. إلا إذا علم تساويهما في المعيار الشرعي, unless they are equal according to the معيار الشرعي. المعيار الشرعي is what's mentioned in the hadith, what the people of Al-Madinah used to consider as something to be measured with volume, and the wazn is the wazn of the people of Mecca. So whatever is we have now that is known at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's measured with weight or measured with volume, we consider that this is the معيار الشرعي. Something new came afterwards, then the urf, then the norm of the people to be applied. This is where we stopped. Okay, then he says وَرِبَ النَّسِيئَ. Then the second type of a riba, which is riba النَّسِيئَ. النَّسِيئَ from النَّسَاء with the fatha, not النِّسَاء. النِّسَاء is the women. النَّسَاء is the something delayed من التأخير. So riba النَّسِيئَ يحرم, as he mentioned في الفضل, يحرم فيما اتفق في علة ربا. فضل كمكيل بمكيل وموزون بموزون نساء إلا أن يكون الثمن أحد النقدين فيصح. What does that mean? So ربا النسيئة يحرم. It's not permissible if it's deferred. فيما اتفق. If اتفق here in the dual tense, مثنى. If the two parts of exchange, you're exchanging something with something, you're selling something with something in return. So if both of them, they are the same, they are equal, في علة الربا, in the علة of الربا. العلة is the reason. الربا is the riba. So they are equal, they are the same in the علة of the riba, meaning what? That means they're both موزون or they're both makil. Why the riba would apply there? Because it's makil, it's measured by volume. Why the riba is applied? Because it's measured by weight. So if they اتفقا, if they are the same in the علة, in the same in the علة, that means what? Again, they're both measured with volume or both measured with weight. This is the meaning of فيما اتفق في علة الربا. I hope this is clear, inshallah, right? So علة الربا. What is علة الربا? The reason why this is called riba, because it's either تكال أو توزن. Either it's measured by volume, something that is measured by volume, or something that is measured by weight. These are the two علة of الربا. And the naqd is going to be mentioned. Clear? So when he says here يحرم فيما, the dual tense. Why dual? Because when you're buying or selling, one side is buying and one side is selling. So exchanging. We have to take away from our mind the fact that when you're buying and selling, one side is having a money, and the other one has a physical thing. It doesn't have to be money. So that's why when he says يحرم فيما اتفق, that means the two sides of the exchange. So that's why there's dates with dates, burr with burr, sha'ir bisha'ir, or gold with burr. So the two sides of exchange of buying and selling can be anything. So if they're both have the same illah, both sides, the buyer is giving and the seller is giving. What the buyer is giving and what the seller is giving is from the same اتفق في علة الربا. They're both something that can be weight or something that can be measured by volume. Like again, someone is giving dates with dates. Both they are measured by volume. Or nowadays with weight. Gold with gold, silver with silver, like this. So فيما اتفق في علة ربا فضل, they both have the same علة of riba فضل. كمكيل بمكيل, ka here as an example, the kaf here. So he's given the example. كمكيل بمكيل. What does كمكيل بمكيل means? Measured by volume with measured by volume, right? So something with volume versus something with volume. وموزون بموزون, weight with weight. This is the same category. They موزون بموزون, وزن with وزن, weight with weight. They're اتفقا, they agreed upon, they're all together upon the same thing, which is الوزن, that they're measured by weight. Makil with makil, they're both equal. They're together in the same category, which is the volume. Clear? Nasa', we're not done yet with the sentence. Nasa' means deferred, delaying the exchange. So they will agree with the deal, but something will be deferred. You know, the buyer is going to give him a portion later or give him everything later. They would decide of how much is the exchange, but he's going to give it to him later. Nasa'. So it goes back to the first word of the sentence, yahrum. So all of that is yahrum. So it's haram if they're both having the same illah, makil bin makil or mawzoon bin mawzoon, and it's nasa' and it's delayed, deferred, illa, except. So we get the first part of the sentence. So this is clear. So if they are the same illah, they're the same category, whether makil or mawzoon, then it's haram to make it as a deferred payment with any of whatever you're exchanging, because both are from the same category. Except إلا أن يكون الثمن أحد النقدين فيصح. Except that أن يكون, that الثمن, we talked about الثمن before. الثمن means the price. The price is one of the نقدين. One of the نقدين. النقد here refers to the gold and silver. النقدين, dual tense here, refers to the gold and silver, because the gold and the silver has been over time the naqdain, the ways that people would use as money, or whatever comes under the same category. So dollars, pounds, whatever there is. So if one side is one of the naqdain, which is gold and silver, or money in general, anything that people use for money value, or they use it for the price, for money, the money that they use in their whatever locality, then فيصح. فيصح, that means it's permissible, it's valid. We looked at the نقدين, which is the الذهب والفضة, before as part of the two categories, because the الذهب والفضة, they will be measured by weight. So that what applied with the weight applies for them. But now we have something extra for the gold and silver and the money in general, and that is that it's used for a naqd. This is where people use as buying and selling. So in that case, if you're having gold and silver, gold or silver or any money, that you're purchasing anything else other than the gold and the silver and the money, like you're purchasing dates with gold. That's basically what he says. إلا أن يكون الثمن, unless the price that you're purchasing the dates with is أحد النقدين. You're purchasing dates with gold. You're purchasing dates with silver. You're purchasing dates with money. What happened? فيصح, that means you can defer it, and of course the quantity doesn't have to be the same. Right? So, and again, the questions, inshallah ta'ala, at the end, we want to make sure that the words are clear. So, إلا أن يكون الثمن أحد النقدين فيصح. So, as we said, this is the example. The gold and silver, if you're using it as thaman, you're using it as a price to pay for anything that has a illa ribawiyya, whether it's something that is weight or something that is measured by volume, you can have, of course, the quantity is not going to be the same because this is the price. You're not going to take 1 kilograms of dollars versus whatever you're purchasing. So this is the thaman, this is the price. So the quantity is not the same, doesn't have to be the same, and it can be deferred. You can pay a portion now, later, all of it later, all of that is fine. So this is, but why? Because one of the what is being exchanged is أحد النقدين, the gold or silver or any money. Clear? So now this is all of the, basically the masail in the basic categories of riba al-fadl or riba nasiya, and then some masail are mentioned here. Okay, so we have to remember that al-illa al-ribawiyya, what is meant by al-illa al-ribawiyya? Illat al-riba. Why it's riba? Because it's either makil or mawzoon. This is the illa. And now we have al-naqdayn, anything that is money. And the gold and silver is included in al-wazn, in the weight, but this is a separate thing for it if it's used for thaman or used for to pay a price of something. So this is the illa. And in these two categories, there is riba al-fadl and there is riba al-nasi'a. Riba al-fadl, that means it's haram if it's increased in the price. When is riba al-fadl applied? When is it haram to change the quantity, to increase one over the other? If they what? The same illa and the same kind. So two things has to be applied. The same illa, that means it's weight by weight, and it's from the same kind. Tamr with tamr, burr with burr. They have to be the same type. Different grades, it doesn't matter, but from the same kind. This is where riba al-fadl applies. That means it's haram to increase. So if you want to exchange tamr with tamr, 1 pound with 1 pound. Even if 1 pound is worth $100 and the other pound is worth $5, it doesn't matter. If you exchange them like this, it has to be the same quantity. Nobody will do that, then sell one and take money and then purchase the other one. Same thing with gold and gold. Even if it's, sometimes people, we want to get into the worldly things because we want to get into the principles of the masail here. But say, for example, gold 24 carats versus gold that is 12 carats. Can you exchange them? If you insist that you just exchange like this, that means it's 5 grams, 5 grams. And nobody will do that. So what's the way out? Sell the 24, get cash, put it in your pocket, and then purchase the 12 with whatever the price of the 12. Has to be like this. You cannot exchange them. Even if they're different grades, even the components of the gold there is not just gold, something else and all of these things. No, to stay away from all of this, because this is called gold and this is called gold. So this is with regards to the illa, because they are the same illa and the same kind. So riba al-fadl applies. So, and also riba al-nasi'a applies, because it has to be hand to hand. What if they are from the same illa, but of different kinds? What applies here? Nasi'a only. The haram is the nasi'a. The haram is the deferred, not the increase in quantity, because they're different kinds. Both are weight, but they're different kinds from the same category, which is the weight. So riba al-fadl is not, no riba fadl in this case. Only riba al-nasi'a applies if it's deferred. If they are from the two different illah, bi'u kayfa ma shi'tum, as the Prophet ﷺ, which means no fadl and no nasi'a. Right? We're not talking about riba duyun. Riba, where when it comes to loans, this is something else, which is the most common thing, is when people take loans and they increase for it. So this is here, as he mentioned. He says, ويجوز بيع مكيل بموزون وعكسه مطلقا. ويجوز بيع مكيل. يجوز meaning permissible. بيع مكيل. It's permissible to sell مكيل. We don't have to translate it, right? What's makil? Volume. But it's not quite makil, something that is, no, the instrument is the mikyal, right? But makil is, yeah, the something itself, the thing that you're purchasing, but the way that you're purchasing it is measured by volume. So makil is whatever is measured by volume, not volume, right? But rather it's what's measured by volume. So it's permissible to sell makil, something that is measured by volume, like barley. Barley, they would sell it with volume. Sha'ir. Bimawzoon. you can sell something that is measured with volume with something that is measured by weight. ويجوز بيع مكيل بموزون وعكسه مطلقا. And the opposite of that, which is موزون بمكيل مطلقا, that means in the absolute sense, there is no harm in this whatsoever. Right? Because there are different categories there. Right? He says, unless unless what? We mentioned something earlier. Unless بجنسه. If it's the same kind, it doesn't work. So when he says here makil b'mawzun, he's not talking about the actual measuring. It's talking about what is considered to be makil. We said that we have a list. المعيار الشرعي. We have a list according to what used to be at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. This is makil and this is mawzun. So tamr is makil, but now it's mawzun, but something like this. So what he meant by bay'i makilin b'mawzun, he's not talking about the act of measuring. He's talking about the commodity that is known to be makil and the commodity that is known to be mawzun or measured by weight. So in this case, again, what it means by this mas'ala is that you can sell dates with barley. No problem. Different quantities, sure. Deferred, no problem. Right? But if you sell dates measured with volume, this is the act of measuring dates with volume, with some dates that are measured by weight. So basically, one bag that is 1 gallon of, let me just forgive me for how to say it in such a way. 1 gallon of dates, not date juice. Like you have a container of milk has a gallon, you fill it with dates. And the same type of, or any type of other date, it doesn't matter, 1 kilogram or 2 kilograms. Can you exchange them? No. Why? Because they are the same jins. The type is the same. This is where you saw in the previous in Riba al-Fadl, he says, لا مكيل بجنسه وزنا. This is the one that says لا مكيل بجنسه وزنا. It is not permissible to sell makil of the same kind waznan, weight. But here this is different. Here he says ويجوز بيع مكيل بموزون وعكسه مطلقا. It's permissible to sell makil with mawzun, different kinds. Different kinds, not the same kind of commodity. Clear? وعكسه مطلقا. مطلقا, that means without any conditions. And then the next one, وصرف ذهب بفضة وعكسه. وصرف ذهب بفضة. الصرف this is the different subject here, which is exchanging النقدين. When you exchange money, this is what it's called, الصرف. So you're making صرف, you're exchanging ذهب بفضة, exchanging gold with silver, and the opposite, silver with gold. وصرف ذهب بفضة. الذهب والفضة, let's go back to the very basic principle of الفضل والنسيئة. الذهب والفضة, they are different in the categories or the same? The علة, the same. They're both موزون. They're both to be weighed with measured, and also نقدين, right? So, but there are different kinds. Can you exchange gold with gold? Yes, you can. But the riba applies. No فضل, no نسيئة. Again, when you say no فضل, no نسيئة, that means what? No increase and no deferred, right? But if it's the same thing with fidda to fidda. What if it's ذهب with fidda, gold with silver? You can do what? You can exchange with, of course, the fadl, no problem, and no nasi'a, right? But he says here, وصرف ذهب بفضة وعكسه, this is valid, you can do that. وإذا افترق, that means no nasi'a, right? We agree that there's no nasi'a in it, no deferred, because they're the same illah, correct? And that's what the next sentence make it clear. وإذا افترق متصارفان, افترق means departed. When we talked about al-iftiraq in al-bay' wal-shira', when you buy and sell in the subject of al-khiyar, the choice to break the contract, right? As long one of the khiyar is khiyar al-majlis, the khiyar of the gathering, when you're sitting together, even if you sign the contract, unless you have a condition in that, you can break the contract as long as you still ما لم يفترقا, as long as you're not departed. So the word here وإذا افترقا, if they departed who متصارفان dual tense مثنى متصارفان from الصرف, two people they are making صرف, they're exchanging money with money or gold with silver, right? So this is the متصارفان, the individuals that are making صرف, gold with silver. If they depart بطل العقد. بطل means باطل, that means the عقد, the contract is invalid. Right? They exchanged, right? And they exchanged it in the wrong way, right? بطل العقد فيما, not in the absolute sense, فيما لم يقبض. فيما لم يقبض. So the مسألة here, this is very easy. Gold with silver. These two individuals, they exchanged gold with silver. The quantity doesn't have to be the same. So 1 kilogram versus 200 kilograms, it doesn't matter. But when they exchanged, they the one side he said, I'll get you the rest of the quantity tomorrow. He gave him half, and the rest he's going to give him tomorrow. بطل العقد, and they departed. That means the contract is not valid except what he took in his hand. So if you make an example, someone exchanged 1 gram of gold with whatever is equal in silver, which is, say, for example, I'm not making this up, right? 500 grams of silver. 1 gram of gold with in exchange with 500 grams of silver. They're not the same quantity, that's fine. To avoid the riba, it has to be hand to hand, correct? No nasi'ah. But they departed when they sat together, they agreed to the price and everything, but he gave him 250, and he said, I'll get you the 250 tomorrow. So according to this here, the contract is not valid. There's no contract except what he gave him, which is the 250. So whatever the 250 is equal to, half, so that means the other one has to give him the half. But the contract is valid only in whatever has been exchanged. So what has been exchanged is the 250 with whatever equivalent to the 250. And the rest, there's no contract. It's not valid. It does not exist because it's deferred. It has to be hand to hand. It has to be by التقابض. Whether he has a khiyar or not, that's a different story. What is khiyar? Cucumber? What? The choice. So whether he has choice or not, right? So whether he have a choice or not, this is something else. It's a different story here. So but here we're taking that وإذا افترق متصارفان بطل العقد فيما لم يقبض. Clear? What is it? No. Then if we apply this to, since we're not saying that we're doing the common things nowadays, but say for example we have now with the same category of ذهب الفضة, money wise. So the same thing applies. So can you exchange dollars with dollars? You can, but it has to be the same quantity and has to be hand to hand. So $100 you can exchange them with $100. And it has to be hand to hand. You cannot be deferring it. Clear? Can you exchange dollars with euro? You can. But since are they the same illah? Yes, they have the same illah. They're money. And they're also like the gold and silver. But they're different kinds. So what the riba that applies here is what? Fadlu nasi'ah? Nasi'ah. So it cannot be deferred. Can it increase in the quantity? Of course. So $1 is equal 1.5 or something like this. Then the quantity or the value is not the same, but you cannot defer. It has to be hand to hand. You cannot say, I'll give you some tomorrow. It has to be immediately. And this is where many things on the internet people have to be. This is to perceive the mas'ala in the right way. Is actually the qabd happened or not? And we talked about al-qabd, and this is when we talk about high level of masail. Of course, we refer to the people of knowledge, but we have the principles of it. The qabd has to be there. What constitutes al-qabd? What constitutes that they both exchange it immediately? Is when you wire money, for example, to someone. Is that qabd or not qabd? This is something that where the ulama, they look at it, they look at the qabd issue. Because it has to have the qabd. You have to have hand in hand. It doesn't have to be a physical one. And as we said, even the ulama, rahimahumullah, long time, as you see in the book, They considered anything that the urf, the norm, would consider as qabd. That's why there's difference between something that فيها تخلية, that you depart from something like a house or something is even, as we mentioned it before, versus al-munawala, something that you give it with your hands. And that's why also these things nowadays can be applied. So purchasing gold from the internet, for example, and things of that nature, this is the original ruling of it applies here. And the same thing with a sarf, money and things like that. Can we start the next chapter? And since sometimes it requires twice that we go through it, and then at 9:05, inshallah, hopefully, if you have any questions, but we'll plus the hadith, inshallah. Just let's start the first sentence here also, just to have an idea of, it's another chapter. There's so much details and things that are related to the times of the past. And what the reason why it's mentioned here also to give us an idea of some issues here, inshallah. So this is basically in the ahkam or the rulings of buying and selling. They call it al-usul wa thimar. Al-usul is the things that are non-movable, land, houses, things like this, versus al-thimar, or al-thimar, which is vegetables, fruits, trees, and things like this. So, you guys following? It says, وَإِذَا بَاعَ دَارًا وَإِذَا بَاعَ دَارًا شَمَلَ الْبَيْعُ أَرْضَهَا وَبِنَاءَهَا وَسَقْفَهَا وَبَابًا مَنْصُوبًا وَسُلَّمًا وَرَفًّا مَسْمُورَيْن وَخَابِيَةً مَدْفُونَةً لا قفلا ومفتاحا ودلوا وبكرة ونحوها, and so on. So here وإذا باع دارا, as you said, we're making sure that the Arabic, we're learning Arabic also. So this is a transition to the next level, inshallah ta'ala. So وإذا means and if. باع means sold in the past tense. What's al-mabi'? The thing that is being sold, right? باع يبيع. باع is sold. يبيع, he's selling in the present tense, right? So وإذا باع دارا, if he sold, وإذا باع دارا, الدار is what? A house. شمل البيع. شمل means البيع would include. شمل البيع, as we know in the Arabic language, either we have the sentence either starts with a noun or starts with a verb. And when we say starts, it doesn't have to be from the very beginning of the paragraph. So the paragraph starts with a noun, but you have a verb here. So every time you see a verb, that means this is every fi'l has a fa'il. Every verb has a doer of the verb. So when you say إذا باع دارا, who's the one that sold? He's not mentioned here. He doesn't have to tell you in the example وإذا باع زيد دارا. It's already obvious. So it's mustatir is hidden, and you make taqdir of it, هو, whatever. So باع دارا, he sold the house. شمل البيع. نعم. شمل أو شمل. الشمل is what you wear on top of your body. But I guess it's شمل. Maybe this is more أفصح. شمل البيع أرضها. But what is شمل? That means الاشتمال is when something is included, something that is part of it. اشتمل المجلس على, this majlis that we sit in. اشتمل, that means it included in it some recitation of the Quran or hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that we would recite. So basically talking about something that is going to be included, right? So شمل البيع. البيع here is the fa'il, is the doer. The bay' will include أرضها. أرضها, that means the land of it. So someone purchased a house. That means he's purchasing the land that is the house is built on. وبناءها, and the buildings, the bricks and everything. وسقفها, and the ceiling. It might sound funny to some, but they're very precise about it, because it used to be in the past, the ceiling is separate. Someone sold his house, he would roll up his ceiling and take it away. I mean, wood ceiling, something. He does not sell the house with the ceiling. He'll use the ceiling for his own house, right? Or even the some of the walls, because it wasn't maybe one thing, and that's why they would mention this specifically. And you see how then you can apply the same thing nowadays. What is included and what is not included. If and this is brings the issue is if someone sold the house without mentioning all of these things, it's not just the urf, it's not just the norm that it's known that he sold the house with the ceiling and the doors and everything. They don't have to include this in the contract, but there's something else. If something that is part of the thing that he sold and the maslaha and the this thing that he purchased, which is the house, is something that is attached to it and something that the benefit of it is part of it, then this is doesn't have to be mentioned. But if it's something separate, then if it's not mentioned, a person can claim it. So as a clear example before we go forward, furniture. A person now selling the house, is he selling it with the furniture or not? He would have to include, he would have to say that he's selling the house with the furniture. It doesn't come by default. If he purchased, you go to see the house, looks beautiful with the furniture, and he purchased the house, and you come the day that you're supposed to take the key of it and he finds it empty. He says, no, I purchased the house when it was full of furniture. No, it's not just that the norm is that we sell the house without furniture. Furniture is separate. It's something that is not part of the house. So this is all the details like this. وَبَابًا مَنْصُوبًا, the door that is already attached, because also sometimes in the past they would take the doors with them. The door is not something part of the house. So, but that's why if he's saying that if someone sells a house, the door is included, unless they would specify. And actually nowadays people can say these things. He want to sell the house, but he likes the door. He spent so much money on the door. It's a golden door. I mean, something like this. He wants the door. He would have to specify that he's not selling the door or he's not selling this. If he does not specify, that means it's included because it's part of the house. وسلما, and a ladder. ورفا, الرف is like this. This is raf. Shelves. مسمور, مسمورين, that means it's nailed. وخابية مدفونة, like an attic or something that they underneath the ground basement, something in where they hide things. لا قفلا, not قفل, not القفل. القفل is the lock. أما على قلوب أقفلوها, the locks. So the lock is not included in the deal. So he says, where's the lock? And again, in the past, the lock was a big deal. It's not just the simple locks that you go buy it with. Huge locks, and the keys is like how the keys, big keys. So that's why ومفتاحا, he wants the key for himself. He worked hard to get that key, and for him to make another one is a difficult situation. ودلوا, bucket, bakara, like a ring or something where they get the water from the well, ونحوها, and the like of this. And then he will continue, but we'll stop here inshallah, just to get an idea of this is where the first paragraph it talks about al-usul. We'll repeat it inshallah ta'ala again tomorrow. أو أرضا شمل غرسة till the end. So let's say it to make sure that we say it in Arabic inshallah. Repeat after me inshallah. الربا نوعان. ربا فضل وربا نسيئة. ربا فضل وربا نسيئة. فربا الفضل يحرم في كل مكيل وموزون بيع بجنسه متفاضلا ولو يسيرا لا يتأتى ويصح به متساويا وبغيره مطلقا بشرط قبض قبل تفرق لا مكيل بجنسه وزنا ولا عكسه إلا إذا علم تساويهما في المعيار الشرعي. وربا النسيئة يحرم فيما اتفق في علة ربا فضل، في علة ربا فضل، كمكيل بمكيل وموزون بموزون نساء، إلا أن يكون الثمن أحد النقدين فيصح، ويجوز بيع مكيل بموزون وعكسه مطلقا، وصرف ذهب بفضة وعكسه، وإذا افترق متصارفان بطل العقد فيما لم يقبض. And stop here inshallah. We can read the rest tomorrow inshallah. The hadith, we'll take the hadith quickly inshallah. We have what's today? We took Bulugh al-Maram, right? Last time we took Jama' al-Hikam. So today's Bulugh al-Maram. So what number? 89. So hadith 89 inshallah. Hadith 89. Everybody's there? I'm not there yet. 84. Okay, here's 89. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا صلاة بحضرة طعام ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان. لا صلاة بحضرة طعام ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان. So in this hadith he says the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, which says here that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. There's no salah بحضرة طعام. طعام is food, and حضرة from الحضور, when something is present. حضر فلان, that means so and so he came. So بحضرة طعام, that means with the food being present. لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. No salah. Literally it means no salah while the food is present. When the food came, if the food comes, no salah. This is what it literally says. ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان. ولا هو, and also not هو, meaning refers to the individual. يدافعه, and مدافعة is to have a struggle. ولولا دافع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض. If it wasn't that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused the people to struggle with one another. Comes from الدفع, when you push someone away, so he push you back. So there is مدافعة. So here what is meant ولا هو يدافعه, and not when the individual يدافعه, the present tense of this, that means الأخبثان يدافعه. الأخبثان in the dual tense from al-khabith, from what's impure, which refers to the urine and the feces basically. So, and not when the two akhbathan is struggling with him. So basically when a person is holding himself, he wants to go to the bathroom and he is struggling with himself while in the salah or before the salah. So no salah, right? So what is meant by la salah بحضرة طعام ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان? That means either that the salah is not valid or the salah is disliked and the person loses some of the rewards of it. And here also it means when the first part لا صلاة بحضرة طعام, if the food is present, as the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said إذا وضع عشاء أحدكم وأقيمت الصلاة فابدأوا بالعشاء ولا يعجل حتى يفرغ منه. That means if the food comes, if the food وضع, if the food, the night عشاء the supper, the dinner is put on the floor on the table, and وأقيمت الصلاة. And you hear the iqamah of the salah, start with the food. And don't be in haste till you get your desire from it, so that you don't go to the salah busy, that you want to eat the food, that you desire the food. So that basically the criteria of making it that a person does not go to the salah as long as his nafs, his own self, he's not desiring the food. If it's not put on the table or ready, that means he should of course start with the salah, and that doesn't undermine the salah, but it shows the importance of going to the salah with devotion to it. But if a person leaves, the food is put on the ground, and he's supposed to eat and he desires it, and he left it and he went to the salah and he prayed Salatul Isha, is his salah valid? Yes, the salah is valid, but this is makruh for him, right? And he can, even if he knows that hadith like this, it depends on what is in his heart and his intentions. And a person it doesn't have to be with the food. A person, the food is put in there, but he doesn't desire it anyway. He's not hungry. So that means he has to say, because the food, it's not about the food, it's about the person desiring the food. So this is to be known with the context of the hadith. And there are many incidences with the Sahaba, they would start with the food. So this is no trouble in this whatsoever. It's not undermining the deen. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And then the second one, وَلَا هُوَ يُدَافِعُ الْأَخْبَثَانِ. If a person is before the salah, he's holding himself. He wants to go to the bathroom. What should a person do? Miss the jama'ah and go to the bathroom, or don't miss the jama'ah with struggling. No, you have to go to the bathroom, even if you miss the jama'ah. But if it's happening every salah, then a person has to do something about it. But this is what is meant. The issue here with especially the second part, if he prays while he has mudafa'ah, this can be in the level of that the salah is makruha, that means he's losing rewards because of the khushu', or it can take him to the level where it breaks the salah. If the mudafa'a is intense, he's not there in the salah anymore. He's just fighting with his own self. That means he has to leave the salah and break the salah. Otherwise, the salah might be not even accepted. As some of the ulama, they said the salah is not valid if a person has that mudafa'a. Not that he feels that he wants to go to the bathroom. If he's struggling with himself, and this is why the word is very specific in this, inshallah. This is again briefly. So, لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. If you say it again, inshallah. ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان. ولا هو يدافعه الأخبثان. So again, it shows the importance of the khushu' in the salah. We have maybe 10 minutes. And go ahead.